Okay, so good morning, students, and welcome to our Little Flower School online classes. And here I am going to take your physics subject. This is the book all of you are having. So in this book, we actually have three chapters in our quarterly syllabus. Out of that, the first two are common, which we have done earlier in previous classes. The chapter one is matter. Second one is physical quantities and measurements. Matter is already going on in chemistry. So here we will go for the third one, which is new for all of you. That is force and pressure. Now, force is very common term. Normally we experience in our daily life, like whenever we used to push or pull anything. So, how to define a force? So, force is an external agent having tendency. Force is an external agent having tendency to change the state of rest, motion, direction, as well as shape and size of any body. Which one? On which we have applied the force. So why it is mentioned here tendency, that we will discuss here. So whenever a force is applied on a body, it will change its state of rest. It means if a body is at rest you are knowing that the position of the body is not changing, then its position will change. It means it will come into motion. For example, if suppose this duster is kept here and it is at rest. Now, if I apply a force on this duster, it will start moving. It will come into motion. So it means the applied force has changed the state of rest. Similarly, if a body is already in motion, its position is changing continuously, and then if you apply a force, then what will be the effect of force? The force will either slow down the motion or it will stop the body. For example, whenever you are riding a bicycle and when you apply brake, applying braking is a kind of retarding force. So as a result of that, the bicycle gets slowed down and finally it comes to rest. Similarly, when you are riding a bicycle, you are going on a straight road and suddenly there is a turn, then what you do? On its own, the bicycle is not going to change its direction. So you apply the force on the handle, and as a result of that, the direction of motion is changed. So this is what the force is an external agent having tendency to change the state of rest, motion, as well as direction of any body. Similarly, if you take a rubber balloon and let its shape is oval, now when you compress it, what happens? The shape and size changes. So this is what our force. The force is that external agent which has tendency to change the state of rest, motion, direction as well as shape and size whenever it is applied on any body. But why I say tendency? It is a nature, but it's not necessary that it can do always. For example, if you apply a force on a football, you kick it, it will start moving. But if you apply force on a wall, what happens? Is the wall start moving? Is it get displaced? No. That's why I have said that this is a tendency. It's not necessary that the applied force can do it. So this is all the basic of force. Next one, we will have just some recap that what is the SI unit of measuring force? SI unit of force is Newton, denoted by capital N, and CGS unit of force is dyne. So all the SI units are written in MKS system. We already know this. Means mass is measured in kilogram, length is measured in meter, and time is measured in second. And in CGS system, mass is measured in gram, length in centimeter, and time in second. So the SI unit of force is Newton, and CGS unit of measuring force is dyne. So there is might be some relation. So the relation is 1 Newton is equal to 10 raised to the power 5 dyne. The relation is 1 Newton is equal to 10 raised to the power 5 dyne. If you want to derive, we know that If we represent the Newton in terms of fundamental quantities, 1 Newton is written as 1 kilogram into 1 meter upon 1 second square. Now, if you convert kilogram into gram, you will have 1000 gram multiplied by 100 centimeter upon second is the common unit, 1 second square. So this will be 1 lakh gram centimeter per second square, and this is what? Dyne. So we will get 1 Newton is equal to 10 raised to the power 5 dyne. So this is the relation between the SI unit and CGS unit of force. For numerical purpose, you have to remember this relation. Next is, so this is the common thing which we have learned earlier also, that what is force and what is the SI unit of force and what is the CGS unit of force. Now the new term which is in our syllabus is moment of force. Moment of force. Now let's have a recap. Suppose if there is a football and it is kept freely on a surface, and if you apply a force on this F, what will happen? So as per definition, we have already learned that the applied force has a tendency to change the state of rest. So if this football was initially at rest and then we have applied a force F, then the football will start moving in the direction of the applied force. The football will start moving in the direction of applied force. It means if a object is kept freely to move, then on the application of force, it starts moving on a straight path in the direction of the applied force. It means we can say that the body used to have translatory motion. The body used to have translatory motion. If a body is kept freely, then on the application of force, it starts moving and it acquires a translatory motion. But suppose if a body is pivoted about any point, it is fixed. It is restricted to have straight line motion. It is restricted to have a straight line motion. For example, suppose a door is fixed with the help of a hinges. A door is fixed with the help of a hinges from any wall. Then if you apply force on this, what will happen? Is this door is able to start moving straight? No. It will start rotating about this hinges. So this is what's called rotatory motion. It means if a body is restricted to have a straight line motion and it is pivoted about a point such that it can rotate, then on application of a force it starts or it acquires rotatory motion. So the moment of force comes here. So the moment of force is defined as the turning effect of force on any body which is pivoted about a point, or it is restricted to have translatory motion, like a window, like a door. So the moment of force is the measure of tendency of rotatory effect of any force applied on a body. So suppose if you take any object which is pivoted about a point such that it can rotate in this horizontal plane. So there are few terms which we must know. Suppose if there is a point P where you have applied the force F. The point on a body where we have applied the force is called point of action of force. Any body which is pivoted about any point, and the point where you have applied a force, that is called what? Point of action of force. The imaginary line passing through the point of action of force and in the direction of the force is called line of action of force. So once again, the concept of movement of force comes only when the body is restricted to have translatory motion and it is pivoted about any point or axis such that it can rotate. Then the movement of force measures the turning effect of the applied force. So if we consider a body which is pivoted about this line, then the point where you applied the force, that is called point of action of force. and the imaginary line passing through this point and in the direction of the force, that is called line of action of force. Then the point about which this body will rotate, it is called axis of rotation. The line about which this body is going to rotate is called axis of rotation, and the perpendicular distance between the axis of rotation and the line of action of force is called moment arm. The perpendicular distance between the axis of rotation and the line of action of force is called moment arm length. So mathematically, the moment of force is equal to the product of force applied to moment arm length. And this moment arm length is the perpendicular moment arm length. The perpendicular distance between the axis of rotation and the line of action of force. So the moment of force is force multiplied by moment arm length, the perpendicular distance between the axis of rotation and line of action of force. So the factor on which the moment of force depends is the force applied. It means more is the force applied on a body, more will be the rotatory effect. Second one is moment arm length. Higher is the moment of length, higher will be the value of moment of force. Lesser is the moment arm length, lesser will be the value of moment of force. So basically, moment of force also defined as how much torque or moment of force must be provided so that a body can rotate. So, like we have already discussed, our nature is always to have a provision of applying less effort. We always try to reduce our effort application. So this concept is useful here. You can see if you want to rotate any object and there is a particular moment of force required. So it depends upon force and moment arm length. So if you increase the moment arm length, the force required will decrease and you can acquire the required moment of force. We will take some examples. Which can be summarized as consequences of moment of force. The first example, if you have ever seen any door, suppose this is the door provided with a hinges from a supporting wall. Now if you apply the force near the edge, somewhere here, then you can feel it that a very less force is required to rotate this door. But if you decrease the moment arm length, means if you suppose apply first at P and you have experienced how much force we are applying, then we apply the force as Q and slowly we move towards the axis of rotation at R. Then in this case, we will observe that when we are decreasing our moment arm length, then the force required is increasing. Then the force required is increasing. So this is the consequence of moment of force. We have learned from this concept that while designing any rotatory device, whenever we have to reduce our effort, we have to increase the moment arm length. Mathematically, suppose if the moment of force required to rotate anything is 100 Newton meter. Newton meter is the SI unit of moment of force. Suppose if you apply force is equal to 50 Newton, then the moment arm length must be 2 meters. Now if you increase the moment arm length d2 next time 4 meters, then the minimum force required will reduce to 25 Newton. Because F1 d1 must be equal to F2 d2 if required moment of force is 100 Newton meter. So initially if we have applied a force at a distance of 2 meters, the force required is 50 Newton. So 50 into 2, 100. Next time we have applied the force at a distance of 4 meters, then the force required is now reduced 25 Newton. Because again 25 into 4 we will achieve the required moment of force. So this is the important consequence of moment of force concept that we have learned while designing many things. Wherever we want to reduce our effort, we can increase the moment on length. Let us have some few more examples. If you have ever seen a spanner, now spanner is basically used for what? It is used for opening any nut. Now if you have to open a very tight nut, what you have to do? You have to use a spanner of very long handle, because longer is the length, more is the moment arm, and more is the moment arm, lesser is the effort required. Lesser is the effort required. Similarly, if you have seen a hand floor, you can see the handles are always provided near the edge, because the more is the distance from the axis of rotation, the lesser is the force required to rotate it. So these are the important uses of the concept of moment of force. Whenever we have to rotate any body, we want to apply less effort, then in that case we are required to increase the moment arm length. Now classification of moment of force. So the moment of force is classified into two types. First is clockwise, second one is anti-clockwise. Now, whenever you will apply force on any body which can rotate, you can observe that the applied force can make the body to rotate in clockwise direction or anti-clockwise direction. So, on behalf of that only, we have classified the movement of force into two types: clockwise movement of force or anti-clockwise movement of force. Suppose you take an example that if about this point a rod is suspended which can free to rotate in this vertical plane. Now if you apply a force on this in downward direction, what will happen? About this point, this rod will rotate in this vertical plane in clockwise direction. So here the moment of force obtained due to this force is called clockwise moment of force. Now if you simply change the direction, now you apply the force on the same object in upward direction. Same force at same point. Now what you will observe that in the vertical plane, this force is making this rod to rotate in anti-clockwise direction. So the moment of force obtained will be called anti-clockwise moment of force. It means we can say that if the force makes the body to rotate in clockwise direction, then it is called clockwise moment of force. And if the applied force makes the body to rotate in anti-clockwise direction, then it is called anti-clockwise moment of force. So once again, the moment of force is the measure of or the tendency of rotatory effect of any force applied on a body. Mathematically, the moment of force is the product of force applied to the moment arm length. It means the factors on which the moment of force depend is the force applied on a body and the distance from the axis of rotation at which the force is applied on a body. Then we have vast uses of this concept. We have discussed few, like the handles to open a door is always provided near the free end. In a hand saw, the handles are always provided at the edge. The spanners to open any tight nut is always of a very long length. And similarly for screwdriver and many more. Like bicycle. Have you seen bicycle? While riding the bicycle, where the paddles provided, they are not exactly at the point of rotation. They are provided with a long handle so that from a distance you apply the force. So more is the distance, lesser is the effort required, lesser is the force required to rotate the paddle. So this is what the consequences of movement of force. Now one more thing we need to discuss, that earlier we have discussed work is also force into displacement. Movement of force is also force into perpendicular distance. So here also we will get Newton meter, here also we will get Newton meter in terms of SI unit. But the SI unit of work or energy Newton meter is also termed as equal to 1 joule. But the same relation we can't use for movement of force. Movement of force is quite different thing from work or energy. So the Newton meter of moment of force cannot be taken as joule, because work or energy is a scalar quantity and movement of force is a vector. Scalar and vector, I hope you are remembering. Those quantities which requires only magnitude to be represented, they are called scalar quantities like work and energy. And the quantities which requires magnitude as well as direction, they are called vector quantities. So here we have seen that while defining moment of force, we have also discussed clockwise and anti-clockwise. It means the direction in which the body is rotating on the application of force. So remember this difference. Even though the SI unit of both are looking same Newton meter, but we can't use 1 Newton meter of moment of force equal to 1 joule. Now, from this chapter, from this topic, from examination point of view, we can expect two type of questions. One is reasoning type of question based on the concept of moment of force. Second one is numerical. Second one is numerical. For example, suppose if a force of 100 Newton is applied on a body to have 400 Newton meters of moment of force. So calculate the moment arm length. If a force of 100 Newton is applied on a body to acquire a moment of force of 400 Newton meters, so what is the moment arm length? Means what is the distance at which the force is applied? So we will use the formula moment of force is equal to F into D. Now substitute the values. Moment of force is 400 is equal to 100 into D. So D is equal to 400 upon 100. So we will get 4 meters. This is one simple numerical. That if a force is given, the moment of force is given, then we can calculate the moment arm length. Similarly, sometimes force is provided, moment arm length, we can calculate the moment of force. Similarly, if the moment of force is given and moment arm length is given, we can calculate the force applied. So we need to remember this formula, moment of force. One thing you have to take care, whenever you will substitute the values must be in the same system of units. Same means if the force is in SI system, then the distance also must be in SI. Like if it is in Newton, it must be in meters. Sometimes in numericals, the force are given in Newton and the distance is given in centimeters. So we are required to convert the centimeters first into meter, and then we will substitute and we will calculate the required values. So this is true for every numericals in physics, that whenever you are substituting the values, then all the values must be in the same system of units. Now come to our next topic of this chapter, pressure. So actually the name of the chapter was force and pressure, but here the force is explained in very brief, and mainly we have focused on movement of force. Movement of force is the tendency of rotatory effects of force applied on any body. Now next is pressure. Now the pressure is defined as the effect of force acting per unit area. The pressure is defined as the effect of force acting per unit area. So mathematically, pressure is defined as P is equal to thrust upon area. Now, what is thrust here? We need to understand first thrust. Thrust is also a kind of force, but why especially we have mentioned pressure is equal to thrust upon area? Because whenever the force is acting on any surface normally, perpendicularly, then it is called what? Thrust. So pressure is basically the measure of perpendicular force acting per unit area. Perpendicular force acting per unit area. It means suppose if there is a surface like this, A force is acting like this F1, a force is acting like this F2, and a force is acting like this F3. So out of these three forces, F1, F2, and F3, if you observe, F2 is acting perpendicularly on this surface. So out of the three, F2 will be considered as thrust, and the effect of this particular force F2 on the unit area means the surface of contact, that will be termed as pressure. So pressure is defined as the effect of thrust acting per unit area. So SI unit of pressure is equal to the SI unit of thrust, it is the kind of force, which is Newton. Area, the SI unit of area is square meter. So it is Newton per meter square. Newton per meter square. And since the pressure was defined by a famous physicist called Blaise Pascal, so in his respect, the SI unit of pressure is also called Pascal. So 1 Pascal is equal to 1 Newton per meter square. 1 Pascal is equal to 1 Newton upon 1 meter square. So how to define? Sometimes in exam question is asked, define the SI unit of pressure, that is Pascal. So you can say that the pressure is said to be 1 Pascal if a force of perpendicular force of 1 Newton acts on an area of 1 square meter. This is how we will define Pascal. The pressure is said to be 1 Pascal if a force of 1 Newton acts perpendicularly on a surface area of 1 square meter. So here the surface area is basically the contact, the area of contact between the two bodies. So the factors on which the pressure depends, if we check out the formula, P is equal to F upon A, then you can say that it is the pressure is directly proportional to the force applied. The pressure is directly proportional to the force applied. It means more is the force, higher is the pressure. Lesser is the force, lesser is the pressure exertion. For example, if you take a spring, two similar springs of same spring constant value, and now on the first spring, you keep a weight of 1 kgf. In the second one, you place a weight of 2 kgf. Now, because of this, what will happen? You will see this spring will get what? Compressed. So, in the first one, you will observe the compression is less as compared to the second one. It means what? If they are having the same surface area of contact, here the area of contact is A, here also it is A. So, from the formula, P1 will be equal to 1 upon A, P2 will be equal to 2 upon A. So if denominator is same, more is the numerator, more is the value, more is the ratio value. So you can see here, mathematically also P2 is greater than P1. And in terms of length of compression also you will find in the second one the compression is more as compared to the first one. It means more is the force applied, more is the pressure if the area of contact is same. If the area of contact is same. Second one, pressure is inversely proportional to surface area of contact. Inversely proportional. It means more is the surface area of contact, lesser will be the pressure. Lesser is the surface area of contact, more will be the pressure. For example, if you take a rod of cylindrical rod of any weight, say it is of 10 kgf, Another rod, similar rod of same weight, only the difference is why it is pointed at one end. This is also of 10 kg. Now let the surface area of this is A1 and the surface area of this pointed portion is A2. Now when you will place them at the same surface, what will happen? You will observe that this will penetrate inside. It means it is physically exerting more pressure. It means lesser is the surface area of contact, even they have the same force applied by them in terms of their weight. The pressure exerted by, say this is P2 and P1, the second one is more as compared to first. Mathematically also, P1 will be equal to 10 upon A1 and P2 will be equal to 10 upon A2. Now numerator is same, so lesser is the denominator, more is the value. So A2 is less than A1, so it means P2 is more than P1. So what we got from this? It means wherever we want to increase the pressure, either you can increase the force applied. That is not always our first choice. We always try to reduce our effort, or you decrease the surface area of contact. So we always go for the second factor. Wherever we want to exert more pressure, we always decrease the surface area of contact. So there are so many things which we have designed and we are using it. They are based on this particular concept. Let's have some of the examples. Example 1. Have you seen the thumbnail? Normally this kind of thing, any type of pin or nail, this is specially called thumbnail, which is used to fix any paper on a board. So if you go through the shape, you can find out at one end it is very broad and at one end it is very pointed. Now what is the reason that one end is kept broad and one end is kept pointed? So whenever you use this particular thing to fix any paper, you always exert the force at this end with the help of your thumb. Whenever we want to fix this nail, we always exert the force with our thumb on this broader end. And this pointed is supposed to get fixed inside the cardboard or a wall. Reason is what? Whenever you are exerting a force and it is broad, let its area is A1 and its area is A2. Then A1 having more surface area, it will exert less pressure in our thumb. And the pointed edge is having less area. In respect to the force applied, it will exert more pressure and easily it can pivot inside the wall or a given cardboard. Imagine what happens if you apply the force at this end. It will penetrate in our finger. So this is one of the simple execution or implementation of the concept of factors on which the pressure depends. Wherever we want to increase the pressure, we decrease the surface area. Wherever we want to decrease the pressure, we increase the surface area. Similarly, example 2. If you see the knife, so the cutting edge of a knife is always kept very sharp. Why? Because the sharper is the knife, the lesser is the surface area, the more pressure it can exert. Similarly for chisel, similarly in an axe, wherever the cutting edges are there, they are always kept very sharp so that they used to have very less surface area of contact so that they can exert more pressure on the application of very less force. Now this is a matter of wherever we want to increase the pressure, we decrease the surface area. We also have the uses of the concept of the factors on which pressure depends in order to decrease the pressure. Let's have some example. If you ever construct any building, especially a multi-story building. Now being a multi-story, it is going to be very heavier. So it is going to exert a lot of force in terms of the weight in downward direction. So it tends to exert pressure in downward direction. So if pressure is very large, what will happen? The possibility is that the building can sink. So what? Before constructing any building, we always used to have the foundation. And if you ever observe, the foundation is very broad as compared to the rest of the part of the building. The foundation is kept very broad as compared to the rest of the part of the building. So the broader is the base foundation, more is the surface area of contact with the ground, so lesser is the pressure exertion. So this is how we protect our buildings from getting sunk inside the surface. We increase the surface area of contact by making the base broad, and thus we reduce the pressure exerted. Similarly, if you have seen the lorries, the trucks which are used to carry very heavy loads. So normally you have seen the vehicles, the cars, they are provided with very single tire, but the lorries, they are provided with extra tires. What is the reason? Because the purpose for which they are used. The trucks and the lorries, they are used for carrying heavy loads, so they used to exert a lot of weight in downward direction. So if you use extra tires, like we used to have pair of tires on the back side, so they used to have more surface area of contact with the ground. So having more surface area of contact, they used to reduce the pressure exertion, and thus they prevent the sinking of the trucks or lorries in the downward direction. So this is a very best example of application of the concept of factors on which the pressure exertion depends. Similarly, we have many more examples, like if you have seen the tanks used in army, instead of moving on a wheel, they used to move on a chain. They are also called caterpillar because they are very heavy. They use to move in desert and different parts of our earth. So somewhere they can find a hard surface, somewhere soft surface. So being heavy, if they exert more pressure, they can sink. So we used to make them to move over a chain so that they can have more surface area of contact. Thus, the pressure exertion by them is reduced, and they can efficiently move over any type of surface without sinking. So there are so many examples, like while skating, why we use wooden planks, or when you are standing, or when you are laying down, in which condition you will exert more pressure. So suppose if there is a boy who is standing on a surface, and the same boy if he is lying on the surface. Now if the same boy is standing and the same boy is lying, the force exerted by the boy will be W in terms of the weight in downward direction. When he is standing, suppose his weight is W, so he is exerting a force equal to the weight in downward direction. While laying down also, he is exerting same force in terms of weight in downward direction. But here you will find out the surface area of contact will be equal to the sum of the area of the feet. Let it is A1, and here the surface of area of contact is A2. So P1 will be equal to W upon A1. In this condition, if the pressure exertion is P2, it will be equal to W upon A2. So again you can see the numerator, that is the force exerted by the boy, is same in both the conditions, but here A1 is less than A2. It means P1 is more than P2. It means while we are standing on a surface, we exert more pressure as compared to while we are laying down on a surface. The same concept is used, like we have seen the skates. For skiing purpose in hilly areas, they used to have a wooden planks below their feet. What happens? Because of that wooden planks, they used to increase the surface area of contact. So when they increase the surface area of contact, they reduce the pressure exertion on the surface, and this prevents them from sinking. So these are the applications of the factors on which the pressure depends. So up till now, we have discussed the concept of, once again, let's have a recap. What is force? Why the effect of force is termed in terms of tendency, that it has tendency to change the state of rest, motion, direction, as well as shape and size. The SI unit and CGS unit of force, the relation between the SI unit and CGS unit of force. Then when the concept of movement of force comes, then what is movement of force? What is the SI unit of moment of force? What is point of action, line of action, moment arm length? Then what are the factors on which movement of force depends? Then what are the consequences of movement of force? Then we have discussed what is pressure, what is thrust, then what is the SI unit of pressure? We have defined Pascal. Then we have also discussed what are the factors on which the pressure depends, and then what are the consequences of factors on which the pressure depends. Like when we have to increase the pressure for a given force, we have to decrease the surface area of contact, or uh, whenever we have to decrease the pressure, we have to increase the surface area of contact, and whenever we have to increase the pressure, we have to decrease the surface area of contact. So this was all for today's video. So in our next one, we will go with the pressure exerted by liquid and then atmospheric pressure. Thank you.